Hey everybody, today's recipe we're making black bean burgers. Now these are vegan and gluten-free and I think they're super delicious, and I'm going to show you how to make them so that they're not too soft and mushy. I'm Rockin' Robin and I'm going to show you how to do it right after this. Alright, so let's go over our ingredients. First up we have our canned black beans. So what you want to do there is just drain them out, rinse them, give them a nice rinse, and then we're going to pour them onto a foil-lined baking sheet because we want to dry them out. That's what's going to keep this from being too wet of a recipe. So go ahead and spread them out into a single layer so they can dry out in the oven. All right, let's move on to our garbanzo beans. We're going to do the same thing with those as well. And so you want to drain them and save, but you want to save the liquid in the canned garbanzo bean. That's aquafaba, which can be a substitute for egg whites, so you don't want to throw that away. It's very useful. And at the end of this video, I'm going to show you a recipe that you can use that for when you're making this. So we'll place our beans into a 325-degree Fahrenheit oven for about 15 minutes or so they can dry out. So here's our beans after 10 minutes in the oven, and you can see that they're quite dried out. Now this is an important step that you don't want to skip. Next up is our lentils. These are just dried lentils that I cooked up according to the package directions. So go ahead and do that, drain them, and then I actually put mine in the refrigerator to kind of dry them out as well. I've got a yellow onion here and some mushrooms that I did the superfine dice with because I want it to be really small and just mix in really well. We'll also do the same with some diced up bell peppers here. I'm using an orange one just because that's what I had in the fridge. Next up is some beets. Now I took some fresh beets and I rinsed them and then peeled them, and then I used a grater and I grated them into small pieces. Then you'll want to place that into a saucepan and cover it with some water, and then place it on the stove and bring it to a boil and then simmer it for about 10 minutes or so until you can taste it and see that they're soft and cooked a little bit. Once the beets have cooled off, then you're going to want to drain them as well to get all the liquid out of them, and then take a spoon and press the beets, into the strainer so that you can drain out even more of the liquid. We'll need some arrowroot. That's going to help to kind of thicken things up and hold it together. And I have some nutritional yeast here, which is going to add a nice little cheesy kind of flavor to your burger. For spices, I've got some garlic powder, some smoked paprika. We'll have some salt and pepper. We're going to use some red chili flakes in this. That's just optional if you want a little bit of heat. We'll need some olive oil and some fresh herbs. I've got some fresh Italian parsley here and some basil. And by the way, this is a great way to keep your fresh herbs fresh longer, as I just trim them up a little bit and then place them into a little mason jar with some water, and then place a Ziploc bag or any kind of plastic bag over the top and just set it in your refrigerator, and it keeps for quite a long time. The only other prep work that we need to do for this recipe is to cook the onion, mushrooms, and the bell pepper just for a little bit, maybe 5 to 10 minutes tops, in a little bit of olive oil on the stove. So we'll get a nice big large frying pan, put about a teaspoon of olive oil in there, get it hot, and then add the onions and the mushrooms and the bell peppers and just saute them for, like I said, 10 minutes. You want to let your onion mixture cool a bit before we start putting everything together, so we're ready to do that now. So I'm going to take all my beans that I dried out in the oven, the black beans and the garbanzo beans, and I'm going to place them in my food processor. This foil comes in handy. It makes a nice little way to carry them over here, and it keeps the pan clean. So cleanup is great. All right, we'll put that in there. I'm going to put in the lentils. And things start getting pretty full, so I don't want to overdo this, because what we're going to do is just mix this much here together, and then we're going to put the rest of it in a bowl and we're going to mix it up by hand. And you want to pulse. Okay, I'm going to place everything at this point in the bowl because the food processor really isn't blending things up as too great now. It's pretty full. So we're going to do it by hand. Now I'm going to mix in the beets. And I think just doing it by hand really works well. Okay, now we want to get these spices in there, and I want to kind of sprinkle them around to just, just to spread them around better. Put a little bit in, mix it up, and then do it again. All right, now I'm going to sprinkle in the arrowroot. A little bit at a time. And you can do that with the nutritional yeast as well. And just work it in. Now you can taste this at any point in time because everything's cooked. It's not like it's like hamburger meat where you can't taste it. You can taste this at any point. I'm going to dump in the parsley and use the fresh stuff. Don't try and use, dried parsley or dried basil. It will not taste nearly as good. And I'm going to put just a pinch of salt in there. All right, I'll put some pepper in there and some red pepper flakes. This is optional. I like that. Just a hint of heat is nice. Look at that. That red color almost looks like ground beef, almost. Okay, so that's all my ingredients. And at this point now we're just going to adjust them if we need to, like add a little more salt if we need to, more pepper flakes, pepper, whatever you want. All right, let's make some patties. Remember, these aren't going to shrink up like a regular hamburger would. And these aren't really, hamburgers. I mean, they're different. So don't expect them to be like, wow, this tastes like a hamburger. I mean, it's going to taste good, but it may not taste like a hamburger to you. Now you can serve these up. You can eat them just like this, fry it up and cook it and eat it with some veggies. You can serve it on a hamburger bun. You can serve it on regular bread, make it like a patty melt. That's what I'm going to do because I don't have any hamburger buns today. Heat up your frying pan here. I've got mine over a medium-low heat kind of, and I'm going to put in probably about 2 to 3 teaspoons of oil in the pan. Give that oil a swirl, and I can tell that the oil is hot, so I'm going to place my burger in there. And I got it over medium heat. What we want to do is get a little crust going on this thing, a little browning. You'll see when we turn it over. We're going to cook this for probably just a couple minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, depending on how high that temperature is. I mentioned earlier that I have a recipe for you to try using the garbanzo bean liquid that we used in this recipe. Well, it's my matcha latte delgado recipe. It is absolutely delicious. It's nice and creamy and it's iced, and it just is perfect for this time of year. It's starting to get hot. You're going to love it. So check it out. All right, I think it's time to flip them over. All right, they're done. I'm going to take them off and put them on a plate. So here's how I'm going to eat my black bean burger. I'm going to make it a black bean patty melt. I'm going to place my bread down there in the butter. Take my patty, place it right there. I'm going to top it with a piece of cheddar cheese. I'm going to place my other piece of bread on there. And I'm going to put a little butter up here. I have my temperature on low. And then you want to cover this with a lid, that way the cheese will melt. Then cook it to a nice golden brown. All right, so here's our black bean burger. Let me cut it in half for you, just so you can see what it looks like on the inside. Check that out. Time for a bite, don't you think? I think so. That is super delicious. I think I like it better this way on bread with some butter and grilled as a patty melt than as a hamburger. This is much more interesting for me, or you can even eat it just plain and add some veggies to it and have a great meal. If you enjoyed this recipe, I've got 2 more recipes for you to try that are vegan and gluten-free as well. The first one down here is roasted vegetables with a homemade pesto sauce and a balsamic reduction. This is to die for. I hope you guys try that. Click that button and go check that out. If you don't like that one, well, I've got another one over here for you. Right over here, that one is the creamy lemon cauliflower gnocchi Again, the flavors are so delicious. Check them out, guys. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching, and leave me a comment. Take care.